Yes, yes, yes. This is the HL podcast for our HL Tuesdays. We are the dopest podcast in the DMV, presented to you all by the Harris Firm and Willpower Innovations. I am Amrock alongside your boy Chief.
Man, in the building, man. This is a great one for y'all today.
Great one. Now tonight, this is our HL interviews where we sit down and converse with the up and coming and established, the talented and intelligent, the artists and entrepreneurs and the creators and the activists. All right. Now, people, please remember that all of our previous interview episodes are available on all major podcast platforms, as well as our YouTube channels, the HL Podcast and the EEM Network. All right, people, right now we are broadcasting live on the Roku platform and Apple TV on the Politicking app via Politicking Broadcasting. A special shout out to the StreamYard platform where we are live right now on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. Also, again, people, the newly released docufilm, The Lost Weekend, again, executive produced by Chief and myself, is available right now exclusively on the EEM Network via YouTube. All right.
Yes, sir.
EEM Network via YouTube. All right. Again, if you follow us on our personal pages, our business pages, the links are all there. Click what's the link? What's the link?
The link tree. Some of us have link tree. So you click the link tree, and then the name of the actual docufilm should be right at the top. You just click it, you go right on in.
Facts. So if you haven't viewed the film, people, please do. All right, please do. Again, we've submitted to various film festivals, so we need your help, to get some views on it, get some comments on it. If you like it, if you didn't like it, that's okay. This is the first film. We just going up from here. So we definitely appreciate everybody for their support and their love, man. And lastly, the 8th issue of the HL magazine is available right now on IG. Please follow our IG page, the HL magazine, right now. And it'll soon be on the Black Lotus News website as well. Chief, let's get it.
Man, let's get it tonight, man. We got a special guest, a multifaceted, yes, I said, a multifaceted entrepreneur who thrived by the name of MJ. We're going to go ahead. Oh, yes, you did hear that name, by the way, MJ. Right. Yes, got them 6 rings. So we going to go ahead and bring her in. Yo, what's up?
Hi, guys.
How's everything going?
Things are going good. I appreciate the intro.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We had to do it big for MJ. You already know.
Right. It's the playoffs. You know what I'm saying?
It is the playoffs.
We only shooting threes around here. Only shooting threes.
Right.
I'm here. Every situation is a game 6 scenario.
Hey, I hear that. Ooh, never lost, by the way.
6 and 7. 6 and 7.
Facts.
6 and 7.
So I'm glad you said that you always here, right? You always show up in the playoffs. You always hit the game-winning shot. But all of that has something to do with mindset. So first question we want to ask you, we want to start off deep. How is your mental right now? Me and Amrock ourselves, man, we big mental health awareness advocates. We like to talk about it. We like to be inside of it so that we understand it, so that our viewers understand it. So how is your mental right now from 2020 to 2021?
I mean, I would definitely say, it's been locked in, like from the jump. I mean, I know 2020 was a rough year for especially a ton of entrepreneurs.
Yes.
I'll be honest, it was like my thriving season. I mean, I feel like if you're like a truly driven entrepreneur that is constantly sort of attacking and going after your goals, 2020 gave you a time period that we probably won't ever see again.
That's a fact.
That's that time to really sit and lock in on all your goals, all the things you ever wanted to accomplish, and really get centered, right? And so you really could attack, whether it was the rest of 2020 or 2021, go after the things that you've been saying you were going to do forever and you never did, that you now had the time to do. So I know, at least for somebody in my position, time is so invaluable. It's just it's crazy. It's it's only been so many hours in a day and it never feels like it's enough. So last year was just a time where I really got a chance to just sit and be with my thoughts, be with my goals, be with my prayers, be with everything, and really have a legit plan to just attack. And so here we are. So, I mean, my full flourishing season, to say the least.
That's amazing. You said, I'm glad you pointed out time. Me and Amrock talk about time all the time. It's almost like a complete reset button to this spot right here. You know, we're talking about this now. We're like, oh, we're on this interview with MJ. It's going a whole year going to come by, and this whole thing, we're going to be like, dang, just like that. Time is so crazy, right? But let's talk about, let's go back. So you're originally from Kentucky, right?
I am born and raised.
So how was it growing up in Kentucky?
Huh?
How was it growing up in Kentucky?
You know, I had a unique experience. I'm from a small country town about 40 miles south of Louisville. Just very, you know, I mean, I call it like Mayberry, you know, from the Andy Griffith show. It's a mix between like Mayberry and Cheers, you know, like everybody knows your name. It's one of those kinds of towns, but I definitely had a unique experience in growing up, predominantly rural, white town. Obviously, you know, there were Black people that grew up there, but, you know, it was just, I mean, I had a great childhood growing up. My dad is the first African-American mayor in my hometown.
Wow.
So I always joke and say, like, my family's like the baby Obamas.
Right.
And so, so, you know, so I think that sort of created like a different, you know, I guess sort of unique upbringing and just sort of always being centered in community. And, you know, and I think I just kind of fed into my natural, you know, extroverted personality and always being about, you know, helping others and helping community and all of that. But yeah, but that was a great overall experience.
So what prompted you to actually move to the DMV area?
Yeah, that's a little tricky. So I moved here just over 3 years ago. Moved here with an ex-boyfriend at the time. I won't go into too many details, but let's just say it definitely ended rather abruptly. You know, and with, you know, a degree of a traumatic experience as well. But what I always say is like, you know, sometimes, you know, trauma has a way of sort of recentering you and putting you on the path that you need to be on. And so with that said, you know, it allowed me to really sort of recenter and really create a whole new life for myself. You know, I had opportunity, obviously, you know, once getting here, the relationship ending, you know, packing up and just going back home, that would have been the easy thing to do. And I think I chose the more, I guess, the difficult thing to do. And that was to work through the trauma, right? And then literally create the life I always dreamed of. And I can say 3 years later, like flourishing, thriving, all the things. Best decision I ever made. I can't imagine being anywhere else other than the DMV. So at this stage of my life. So yeah.
That's so amazing to hear. We talked to a lot of entrepreneurs, like he named a list of so many people we spoke about, and all of them have something that puts them here, right? And the quote that always comes to my mind is Dr. Miles Monroe when he said, we all have to pay a price, right? But God doesn't trust us unless we do pay that price. And though it's a trauma, though it's something that really hurt bad, we did have to pay that price for him to trust us. And now look at you. He trusts you with where you are right now. So it makes a lot of sense, correct?
For sure, yeah.
So you have somebody on here, they just said something. Megan Sheckles has always been a go-getter, proud of you.
Oh, yeah, that's my girl, Nicole. Yeah.
At a perfect point, which leads us right into the next question. So you're on an entrepreneur, event planner, wedding planner, all of the above, but has planning or organizing always been a passion of yours?
You know, I just think I feel like it's kind of always been just a part of who I am. You know, and I don't know where it breeds from. I assume it probably comes from my parents to some degree because they've always like done the most. I mean, my dad has always been part entrepreneur, you know, part community advocate, always kept a 9 to 5. You know what I mean? My mom always like had a 9 to 5 and was always super centered on me and my brother. So I kind of got to see the best of both worlds. They just celebrated their 40th wedding anniversary.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah. Black love is beautiful.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. And so I think really kind of seeing that like partnership dynamic in my parents, and how they raised us, and just went hard after everything they wanted to do. They were early entrepreneurs, or early Black entrepreneurs in my hometown, which wasn't something that you saw on a consistent basis. And I think just sort of seeing that growing up, and seeing things done right, I think just kind of bred that in me at a young age. And I mean, if anybody's on here that grew up with me or high school, like I've always thrown parties, like, I mean, crazy, epic, like whole neighborhood there, like half the school. And it's funny that we're on this call right now because I'm in the process of getting ready to play my 20th class reunion next year.
Wow.
With my high school. So yeah, so it doesn't even seem like I've been out of school that long, but yeah, so I've always been known, to do the most. Like I was a class president, I was the homecoming queen in every club. And so I think I just always naturally just took on the leadership role and brought the organization. And I think that's just a trait that I recognize in myself, and just figured out how do I really direct it in a way that, financially, going to be helpful, but then also can help others. Because I always try to stay centered in helping others. Because I have a whole HR career too. So in addition to managing, the businesses and stuff, but you obviously have to be organized to be able to do all those things. So yeah.
What an amazing story. Do you actually remember the first event that you planned?
The very first one.
The first one.
The one that I can remember probably is my 13th birthday party. That was at my parents' basement. Yeah. Had the DJ on the turntables, like all the things. Yeah. So that's probably the first. I remember, it was pre-internet and phones. I mean, I made little flyers, hung on all over school. Yeah. So I mean, and I remember always my parents would be like, well, how many people you think are showing up? I would always underestimate. And it would end up being house full of kids, yard full of kids, and they just looking at me, just shaking their head, but they always encouraged it. And that's probably why I'm where I'm at now.
That's right.
I mean, from middle school to high school, they just kind of embraced it, roll with it. I think they even enjoyed it a little bit. So I think it's important when parents can kind of feed their kids sort of passions and natural God-given gifts. I think that typically usually works out in their favor.
I agree.
Was this a trend? Was the next one the Sweet 16? You planned that one, the 21st?
Sweet 16, literally, rented out a venue at 16 with a contract. My parents didn't even know. Hired a DJ, had people at the door taking money. It was like the club at 16. But
no,
if you see the small town I grew up in, it would blow your mind. You'd be like, what? Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's amazing to hear. So you were born with it. It came with you. Like a bird is able to fly, a fish is able to swim. You were just born to do all of this. This is
for sure. Yeah, definitely.
So when did you actually start your company, MJ Events Management?
Yeah. So originally, I started it, formalized it, that is, in 2015, right? And so, I mean, I think I always was dibbling and dabbling here and there, helping out with this. I was on boards of nonprofits, helping to put together gala events around Derby. But then it got to the point where it was just I'm doing a lot, for a lot of people, not getting compensated. This is a lot of work. And I remember my dad sat me down one day and was like, you got a lot of contacts to be giving away free game, basically. You might as well formalize your business. And so I thought about it. I was like, yeah, you're probably right. And so I did, formalized it and never looked back. It's funny how when you just make the decision, and this is in not just business, but just life in general. When you make a decision to go after anything that you want to do, God's naturally just going to align the steps every time. If you go at it with good intentions, good mindset, and just, a positive mindset at that, things just have a way of working out.
Right.
And, within that year, it was just weddings came. And I think people just sort of always trust in my ability to do what I say I'm going to do. And because at the beginning, it's nobody really seen me do a wedding. They were just we know what you're capable of, so we just gonna roll with you. And it's kind of been like that ever since, so.
Wow, that's amazing. So speaking of wedding, you're the wedding boss, correct? So the company MJ Weddings and Events as well. So how did that transform into, like you said, you moved into the weddings? Can you actually take us through like the whole planning process of weddings and all of that?
Honestly, I think the weddings really came from being a hopeless romantic in my earlier years.
Yeah.
My favorite movie all time is Coming to America.
Wow.
Love it.
Yeah.
And so I think that was my first sort of like glimpse at like what a big wedding looks like. You know what I mean? And
let me ask you, what did you think about the second movie? The second one?
It wasn't the first. You know what I mean? It wasn't the first. I won't say it was bad. You know, it definitely had some funny scenes in it, but it definitely, like, nothing's gonna knock off the first one. You know, like it's just it's not possible. So, but I think that initially sort of like planted the seed, and then I think just over the years, I'm a hopeless romantic, right? I love loving basketball, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we'll get to that. Like that's essentially like the fusion of, kind of my world now. But I think it started with that. And then, I think it just kind of flourished from there. And I think the one thing about weddings is different from every other kind of event is this the one event that's truly like centered in love. It's good vibes. Happiness is all the things that you don't get a chance to feel like all the time, or every day. And I mean, it's just filled with just all the feel good emotions. And I think that makes the job not feel like work.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So with that, right? So the process, right? I'm sure like you have to, meet with the couples and then plan everything. So take us through that. How is that step-by-step process in that journey?
Yeah, it is a lot of moving parts. It's basically like being a project manager on steroids.
That makes sense.
Because not only like you literally are managing a project, seeing it from beginning to end, but then it's also dealing with, like I always tell people, I'm also a therapist, right? Not licensed formally, but by way of just the fact that you're constantly checking in with a person's feelings, and as it relates to one of the biggest days of their lives, sometimes I always try to make it a point when I'm, going through planning calls and consultations that I always take a minute and say, how are you feeling? Like, are there pain points? Do you have some anxiety? Is it mostly just excitement? Is it nerves? Like, what is it? And kind of let them open up and give you like what they're truly feeling, because then that kind of helps me put my heart and soul into the areas that are going to be most important and impactful for them.
Right.
So,
that's deep.
To take you through the steps, like it's wild. I think every couple is different. I always say I'm the poster child for the type A bride. Because I'm type A, so I think when clients, and I always tell people, like, if you get me on the phone for a consultation, it's a 90+% chance that I'm probably going to get booked. Because the thing is like, it's a gazillion wedding planners out here. I'm not doing anything that's like unique or something out of the ordinary. I mean, it's a ton of people out here doing this, but they're really buying me. You know what I mean? And my personality and my expertise and what I bring, and the energy I bring more importantly. And so I think that I try to make sure that comes across in all of my consultations. It comes across during planning. And so, so typically, I start with the consultation process, and then, and rule of thumb, I don't do anything without a deposit.
About to say
right. Consultation's complimentary, but beyond that, you can't make no moves until, you know what I'm saying? And the only way I know you're serious is when you put those coins down. So once that starts, right, then we begin just a very sort of structured planning process. And every couple's in a different place. Some couples are booking me. I have a bride that's already booked me Memorial Day weekend for 2023.
Woo.
So I have people paid in full too, mind you. So I have couples like that are just like super amped and like ready to go, and so I can kind of pace them out a lot easier. Then I have couples like right now. I have a couple literally just booked me today, getting married in like 6 weeks, and I'm starting from the ground like ground zero.
Man,
You got it, bro. You got it.
Yeah, for sure. Right. That's the MJ game, and it's a former ball player too. Well, he actually still plays ball. So you know, so in his mind, he's like, I got MJ, so I'm straight. You
That's
know
right.
I mean? Like, right. So yeah, so you know, so you have those scenarios, which those are the most fun because you know that's when I really get to tap into legit like MJ clutch performer, game 6, all the things, right? So
right.
Those are probably my favorite. They're the most stressful, but they're also, you know, my favorite. You know, so I think it's just really finding out where people are and then making sure you keep them organized and you keep them on task, right? So I try to, if it's a couple I know that gets overwhelmed easy, I try to break it down in little pieces.
Yeah.
So each call we focus on 1 or 2 things, maybe 3, no more than 3. People only remember things in 3s.
That's a fact.
So no more than 3 things. Then the next meeting, 3 more things. We just kind of piece away at it, and then we look up. It's the wedding day, and everything's coming together.
That's tough.
That's
but I also would like to argue that I think you are doing something unique and different.
And what is that?
And tell me if I'm wrong. First of all, you answered it. You said I'm not doing anything different or unique, but then you said, but they are getting me. That's your uniqueness. That's right there.
Well, yeah, that is true. I will.
You lost me right.
Yeah, it's only one me, that's for sure.
Yeah, a lot of people don't have you know, that enthusiasm or the energy. You know what I mean? Like for what they're doing. You know, that's just facts. Like a lot of people just don't like. They just don't, you know, they just don't have that. So for you to have that energy and enthusiasm about what you do and what you're passionate about, like Chief said, that's different already.
Yeah. And then you taking off you always bring the archetype of MJ. That's already you already.
Well, my initials are legit MJ though.
Of course, right? So that's you.
My middle name is the J. Yeah, I couldn't change it up because I was like, if I ever change the last name, I still want to be MJ. So
I'm glad you kept that because it just embodies who you are, right? So you live in it, right? So I say that that's your uniqueness right there. When they get you, let's say if I take over wedding planning right now too, and then you know I try to step in the game with a couple at the same time, they're not gonna get what you bring. They're gonna get what I bring, and it's gonna be totally different, right?
Yeah.
Because my uniqueness is totally different. I'm kind of laid back. I tell jokes, but I'm not always up and ready to go, right? You ready to go. You bring the energy, right? So that's
I've been up since 5 this morning. Yeah, I'm always ready to go for sure.
See, I would love to see that, Chief. I would love to see, you know, that planning that would be kind of fun. I'll just put that out.
I ain't got that. All right, so next question is an intellectual property question. We talk about this all the time, how important it is to own your own stuff, and especially as a Black woman who's a double minority in this world. How important is it to own your own brand and your own company?
Exponentially important. I mean, I don't know anything that is more important right now. I mean, it's just, you know, I mean, and I can't speak for everybody, right? Like I know what drives and moves me, right? And so for me, you know, owning and having everything that is truly mine, right? Like nobody can take that from me. You know what I mean? And so, you know, I know for me, in-game goal is like complete and utter financial freedom. So the only way to truly be in that space is to have and own your own, right? So, you know, Jay-Z's my favorite rapper without question. And so I think, you know, obviously having, you know, been listening to him for all these years, you know, I think that's something that's like continuously, you know, driven home and but makes complete sense, you know. And so I'm like, you know, even though I do have a 9-to-5, right? Like, you know, I'm always gonna still have my own on the side. And it's just a matter of time before, you know, I don't have a 9-to-5 anymore. But what I feel is most important is being if you have that 9-to-5 and you have other businesses, leverage that 9-to-5, right? To help speed you along in the process of getting to your ultimate financial freedom place, right? You live like you want.
That's a fact.
Right. Facts. Yeah. So at the beginning of the interview, right, we were talking about 2020, right, and how you know things had to, you know, things slowed down for all of us, right? So you know, going back a little bit, right, when it first happened, right, when you realize, okay, shoot, like everything is shut down, everybody's about to be staying home. I'm sure you probably had things booked and ready.
Yeah.
How was that moment, and how did you adjust to everything?
Yeah, I think, life is all about being able to pivot, and I think that's one of the other things that 2020, I think, has definitely taught entrepreneurs. Like, you gotta figure out like how to make just like a very strategic pivot.
Yep.
And so I think we were just, anybody in the event industry was, I know, blown away just by like how quickly and abruptly everything was just boom, done. We had double-digit weddings on the books, all of this stuff. And I was just like, this is wild. I think I spent probably 2 months straight, like rescheduling, right? Just nonstop, redoing contracts, rescheduling.
Dang.
I mean, it was insane. And so, I think I really truly feel like there's always a silver lining in everything.
Yeah.
And I think, about midway through that, it was frustrating, all of that, but I'm just like, okay, what is this situation, God? Like, what am I supposed to be learning through this, right? Like, what is the silver lining? And I think for me, it was what I said earlier, is really being able to take a second, slow down, and get centered within myself, right? And get truly, truly focused.
Yeah.
And so obviously, I made sure that, because at the core of my business is, we are centered on our clients. And I wanted to make sure that obviously, I'm stressed out, right? Because I'm like, shoot, I'm losing money this year. But like, my clients are stressed out because they're like, oh my God, this is my dream day. And like, now what, I think, I definitely want, stayed centered on them in terms of making sure, I kept them calm, reassured them, was very flexible around rescheduling and making sure that they knew that the day would still go off as beautiful and, and as wonderful as they'd imagine it would be. Just might not be this year, but it's going to happen. Right. So I think reassuring them, was huge. And then getting all that situated. And then it was like, okay, now I got time, more time than I'm probably like ever going to have again. And so it's like, what do I need to do with this time? And so, I use the time to sort of, restructure and think about like, how do I want to show up in the business? How do I want to grow and expand and scale? So I went back, got a destination wedding planning certification, right? Because I knew like eventually when we come out of this and it's safe to travel to destinations, couples are most likely going to be wanting to do that.
Genius move.
Renewals, or just their wedding in general. So I did that, invested in the company, did that. Then of course, I told you I have an HR career as well. One of the areas that I'd always kind of had an interest in, just hadn't had time to pursue, was diversity, equity, and inclusion, which, as you know, after last summer, like went into like high gear. So I went back to school and went to Georgetown University and got a diversity, equity, inclusion, strategic management certification.
Wow.
And it kept me busy. Bought a house. And
Congratulations.
Bought a house April 1st. So right at the height of the pandemic, everybody was quarantined. I literally had 2 friends that helped me move. It was crazy. Because, it was wild. So bought a house, started an Airbnb business. I had this basement, so I knew I couldn't like afford a multifamily in DC, on a single person's income. But I knew if I could tweak a single family into a multifamily, I could make it work. Wow. So I ended up finding a renovated house in DC that had a separate entrance. And so literally created a whole Airbnb business. It was flourishing even in the pandemic. And so, so like started that, got those processes in place. So that went great. So it was, you just got to figure out, how to strategically pivot. And so, it was like, I didn't have all the weddings. I did a few weddings in the back end of the year. But, for the most part, I was like, okay, how can I figure out how to still make some moves? Took some time, learned about cryptocurrency, invested in that heavy, started learning about stocks. So just use the time to just further educate myself in areas that I knew I wanted to, to continue to grow in, but just, quote unquote, didn't think I had the time, but then had it. So
amazing.
That's awesome. That is definitely amazing. That's definitely amazing that you saw that. So again, so you are an owner, right? And with being an owner, right, there comes those highs and those lows, right? So
for sure.
What have been the highs and lows for you, right? And most importantly, what have you learned from those experiences, whether good or bad?
Yeah, I mean, and I think even now with where I'm at, I'm still experiencing highs and lows, right?
Yeah.
Like, more highs than lows, but they're still there, right? So I think in the early stages of starting the business, I think, you just don't know what you don't know, right? Like I didn't have any immediate friends or family around me that, had a formalized, wedding and event business. I have great parents, they're smart, they're sharp, they own businesses, but they couldn't hand guide me through this, right? So a lot of things I just really learned on my own, because the unfortunate thing sometimes, in business, especially sometimes, with Black individuals, as a community, sometimes we don't always extend the olive branch.
Facts.
And even though I knew, other wedding and event planners that looked like me, where I first started, which was in Louisville, Kentucky, it wasn't an extreme, like, it wasn't like nobody was breaking their neck to be like, It was just like, I remember running into one event planner that, she'd already kind of been established in the area, and she was just like, it's enough money for everybody, which is facts, right? But it wasn't like, I'm gonna help you, but do your thing, figure it out. And so I did. But it's always going to be some challenges with that, right? Like, for instance, in the beginning, super underpriced. Like I remember the end of my first wedding. I remember killing it, knocking it out the park, and the client tipped me more than I charged them.
Wow.
And and it was the mother of the bride that paid me, and she came over and she said, "You are severely underpriced." She's like, for the value you bring, she's like, you should be charging double, if not triple. And it's like, okay. And she was like, just let this be a piece of advice. She's like, I know you're just getting started, and you're early on, and you still got a lot of things to learn, but just keep that nugget. And I thought, what? You know what I mean? But, so I immediately started making adjustments, right? And then it kind of just became, just kind of standard, like every so often, like boop, little bump, So that was one thing I think. And then just like the business, the back end, right? Like the taxes and the budgeting and you know what I mean? Just managing all that, keeping your finances separate, personal money, business money, like it was just a lot of that in the beginning that, you just don't, it ain't like they teach you that in high school, college even, a lot of stuff you had to, I had to navigate, read, learn, trial and error, all of that. And now, I'm at the level where I'm scaling, right? I have 5 great, phenomenal women who work with me now. And so now I'm really learning, I'm really having to navigate that, like truly sitting in the CEO seat, right? So, I've been a working CEO all this time and still am really, because my brand's been built off, as you all see, like my energy, my passion, right? And so now really making sure my team embodies those same traits, right? And and show up on site the same way I would, you know what I mean? And so sometimes that's difficult as a CEO because we built this from the ground up. It's essentially my real life baby.
Literally, that's literally what it is. Yeah.
And so it's so hard to like give up little pieces. You know what I mean? Like, but you gotta realize like you cannot grow, right? As a single individual trying to do everything. Like it's just not possible. So like, a couple weeks ago was my first time taking on 2 weddings in the same day, 2 different states. And where I had to let my team do them.
Wow.
And they blew it out the park, knocked it out the park, and did a phenomenal job. And so it was just like such a gratifying moment because it's like it took me 5 years to get to that point. But, it's just really making sure that you surround yourself with the right people that are going to take you to the next level. And so now it's just, all up from here. And so we just moving and shaking, Kentucky, the DMV, soon to be destinations, so it's been great.
I'm glad you said that. I like to cut it, Emerald, because I just heard a quote from Les Brown. I think it was yesterday. He said someone told him to have people around him that are only quality people. He said you can make upwards of $2,000 to $3,000 per friend, per person, if they have quality, if they bring something to you, and of course value to you and to them as well. but he said he had to get rid of his broke friends because he was getting broke. Right? But he said he surrounded it with people, of course, from the sandbox, people that he knew, but some who was of quality and of value. And just to hear you say that, I mean, it's like full circle, man.
It is. It's like Nipsey said, everybody can go. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just what it is, you know? And yeah, and I mean, it's been some people, you know, I had in my journey early on, they're no longer here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Move on. It's just what it is. And you know, life, if nothing else, life is going to teach you who's truly going to ride or die for you, you know, and be there in your time of need. And that's when you really know. I always joke and tell clients, like, you will know who your riders are: weddings, funerals, and babies. Those three things come into your life. And I'll say a fourth, just trauma, period. Right? Yeah. Like, those four things, when those things show up in your life and you've been the person that's constantly been there for others and helping and, you know, all of that, and then that stuff comes on you, and that's when you know, right? Like, there's no other way I can put it. It's no simpler than that, you know? And to your point, like, look, you got to weed some, cut them and go. Like some of my friends joke, like, I'm the cutoff queen, and that's a fact. You know what I'm saying? Men, friends, family. If I got
bye bye.
Like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, you just, I mean, right? If somebody doesn't mean my highest good, right, that's in my life, they don't need to be there.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm not coming into anybody else's life bringing negativity.
Absolutely.
You know, half-assing anything. Right? So, and I think the moment I started making those decisions consciously, my life leveled up.
For sure.
Definitely.
Right. Facts. I'm curious though how you dropped them. Was it phone call? Was it text?
Sometimes, look, I'm gonna show you in a minute. Sometimes it's ghosting. You know what I'm saying? And,
ghost. Hey.
I don't advocate ghosting, you know, and I'm trying to be better. You know, it's all about growth.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it's phone calls, sometimes it's email, sometimes it's, you know, it's a text, but sometimes it's ghosting, because sometimes you gotta know your people, right? Yeah, sometimes the ghosting gotta happen because you got people who are gonna try to justify whatever.
Oh yeah.
Right? I don't have no more time to give. Period. Right? So
facts. That's real.
So we kind of want to shift gears a little bit real quick. So we just had Juneteenth. All right. It is now a federal holiday, right? So of course, you know, Black people, it's federal holiday, we off, you know, everybody was off on a Friday, but we've been celebrating this for years, for decades, right? Like this ain't nothing new to us, right? It's just not technically official.
Right.
But you know, we raised a question, especially on our last podcast episode, as far as like, you know, okay, we're getting the holiday. That's cool. Appreciate it. President Biden and Kamala Harris. But we see what's happening to us in these streets, right? We're still dying at the hands of police, at the hands of bigoted and racist people out there, right? We're still being discriminated against in multiple ways, right? So we asked the question, right? As you know, like, where are our, you know, protection bills? Where are our crime bills for Black people as we see other ethnic groups getting those, right? What are your thoughts on that and how our government has handled that?
So, you know, I usually don't get like super political just in general, especially like, you know, just hourly, because, you know, it can be a slippery slope.
Absolutely.
But, I mean, I think, but I'm a realist at the end of the day, right? I'm super conscious, you know, hella woke, like all the things. I'm not super crazy vocal, like if you follow me on social media and all that kind of stuff, but I am. And so, you know, I understand racism on a deeper level, systemic, more importantly. And, you know, you got to know when it's just smoke and mirrors, right? Like at the end of the day. And so I'm not saying like Juneteenth is completely that, but like sometimes, you know, you just got to pay attention. Like sometimes, you know, stuff like Juneteenth will get passed, you know, as a national holiday, but then all these other bills and all this is just sitting here collecting dust, right? It distracts us from the bigger picture and the things that we really need to be going after. And it's like, I guess in the administration's mind, it's like, we got these small wins, but it's like, we ain't getting the stuff that matters, right?
Absolutely.
Like we gonna find a way to celebrate anything that we feel like celebrating. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll walk out on the 4th of July and there'll still be fireworks going off. You know what I'm saying? So like, are we celebrating Juneteenth or we celebrating 4th of July? We doing all of it, right? We celebrate any and everything we want to, right? So, we celebrating just being outside, period. So my thing is, we're gonna do that anyway, because we love a good celebration. But like, I just think it's just not enough. It's not enough accountability for me, right? That's happening at this stage in the game. Granted, like I know they've been in office for a few months at this point. The world wasn't made in a day, but like the same way you can sign a bill for Juneteenth being a national holiday, is the same way you could have signed the 87 other bills that's on your plate and on your desk.
Absolutely.
I mean,
that's all I'm saying. And so I'm a person, me personally, that I don't put my trust in, the government and politicians, and I'm not looking for nobody to save me. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's where we got the game messed up, right? Like, you got to zone in and attack what you know that you have the control to be able to go and do, right? And start with your own household is how I say it. Like, get yourself together, get yourself in the best position possible, get your businesses in the best position possible, and that's how we elevate as a collective unit, instead of worrying about, well, they ain't do this, they ain't do that. They probably not gonna do it, right? But like, what can we do, right? So I just think, that's just kind of where I'm at with it.
No, very well said. Definitely appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, for real. We could go on for days at this.
Right.
It's something else. So let me ask you. This is a very important question because the next generation is humongous. It's key. I say that I tell this to Amark all the time. Like, I don't have kids yet, but when I do, the most important thing is I'm responsible for this generation and generation that they're creating and the one they're creating after that. So with that being said, what is your advice to the next generation, those young girls and boys who aspire to be event planners or wedding planners or entrepreneurs in general? What would be your advice? And
I often say this, like if money was no object, what would I do for a living? It would be mentor young kids, right? Especially that pivotal age, like that high school, college, like I would want to be the person I needed at that age, right? Like, you know what I mean? And so I think, I guess if I had to leave like at least one core piece of advice, I would be like, take all the necessary steps that you need to have, create, and own your own, right? Whether that's your own home, business, whatever it is you're trying to do, like, and start to acquire those skills earlier, in life, to where, you don't have to depend on, trying to go into a broken corporate system and, begging and trying to prove your worth to some employer who don't give two shits about you. Something happened to you, your job will be posted the next day. Like, getting out of that like rat race, if you will, right? Because that's what's really holding us back. No one's ever gonna get rich from a day job. They're just not.
That's facts.
It's not designed that way. Because if it was, your boss will hire you and pay you what they make it.
Right.
But they're not.
Right.
So
it's real. That's real.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just what it is. So so that would be definitely my nugget for the next generation, right?
I hear that. Yeah, kids better listen up. That's amazing advice. And also, please tell everyone, like, what do you feel your life's purpose is? Like, we heard a lot of stuff from you this past 40 minutes, and it's been so amazing, so passionate. This is a serious question because I love purpose. Amark loves purpose, and we like to walk in it because it's the only thing that makes sense. So what's your life purpose?
I think about that often, and I think I continuously keep coming back to, like serving others, right? Like in every aspect of what I do, I'm somehow helping someone else, right?
Yeah.
Either if it's just helping them for that moment or for that period of time, if it's something I can do that helps them long term, or helps them get in position to do something else more positive, I think that's because I think you can never go wrong with helping and extending olive branch to others.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, because I think those blessings are always going to come full circle for you. You know,
fact. True leaders serve. I like to live by that. True leaders serve. If you find a leader who is not serving, that is not a true leader. A true leader will serve because Jesus did. That's what he did. He didn't come to be served. He came to serve. So we're supposed to follow in that. We got to serve, you know, to become true leaders.
And real quick, only if you really think about it, only the strong too really serve. Like it's because it's not easy.
Oh no,
not at all.
So you got to be strong when you get in that pushback. When you know what I mean. So
that's a fact.
I'm sorry, Chief, but
and I tie that into resilience. Yeah, I mean, that's for sure.
Facts.
No, that's very true. I'm glad you said that because as leaders too, we're in the front. So it's not like sheep when you're in the back, you following the butt that's in front of you. You in the front chopping it down for everybody else looking to watch to see how you chopping it down, right? In your mind, you don't know where you going, but you know you're going, right?
Right, that's right.
You're going
forward.
Yeah, moving forward. So lastly with this first segment, what's next up for you? You gave us a lot. You know, you had everything planned up into 2023. So like what's anything next that you want to lay out on the table?
I mean, you know, I think just continuing to grow, you know what I mean, thrive, like tighten up all my processes, all my procedures. You know, the goal is always to be a super well-oiled machine all the time. So I think, you know, I think that's my biggest challenge right now is just balancing all the things. I'm a Libra by nature, so you know.
Oh, here we go.
I'm always trying to be balanced in general. I think it's just in my nature, but I think, you know, sometimes it's hard, you know, especially, you know, with where my business is now, it's so much going on, you know, and in the 9 to 5, it's just, you know, I always tell people I got a 5 to 9, a 9 to 5, and then a 5 to 9 a.m. and a 5 to 9 p.m. You know?
Yeah.
Because that's about, you know, like it's nonstop. I got to get up 5 a.m. to 9, working on the business, work my job, then work on the business again. And so, so it's just, but I understand this is just the season I'm in, right? And I know, like, just continuing to just, you know, sort of be locked in and tacking my goals. You know, eventually, right, I'm gonna be able to wake up and do what I want to do, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
You know, so I think it just, you know, it's just kind of how it's got to go. But I would say, you know, next up for me, real estate investing. I'm currently looking at some properties, and you know, you got to figure out a way to replace the 9 to 5 income, right? So,
right.
So I think, so that's the next step on my plate is to dive in, you know, full force with that.
Amazing.
Sounds great. Now, people, we're about to get into our quick 5. All right, so I'm gonna ask you 5 questions. All right, we just need 5 quick answers to each question. All right.
How much time I got?
I mean, it's, like, you know,
you're gonna be just like rolling them off.
We got time.
Okay.
So first up, right? Tell us one thing that you know now that you wish you knew at the beginning of your journey.
Probably how to adequately price.
Yeah.
You know, my value.
Knowing your value, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, knowing my value for sure. That.
Okay, yeah. That's great. So next, which public figure that has passed on, right, would you have loved to have met? Hopefully talked about each other's experiences, maybe potential business opportunities, or just pick their brains for their knowledge?
Oh, this one's tough. Oh man, there's so many.
I know.
Oh my gosh. For different reasons though.
Fair.
I'm probably gonna go with it's tough. I still keep going back to Malcolm X though, but
Great one.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, but yeah, and I know it's some more, but I'll ride with that for now since we only gotta go one answer.
I'm with that one.
Malcolm X. That's a great one. All right, so if you could plan an event in the deep depths of the ocean,
So we talking Atlantis,
or
Okay.
or in outer space, which one would you choose and why?
Oh, outer space for sure.
Yeah,
Like that might even happen in our lifetime, the way we going.
True.
right. Facts.
Very true.
For one, I can't swim, so I'm definitely not going
That's
to.
none of that.
Definitely not doing that. But yeah, no, definitely. Like I mean.
Yeah, outer space would be a little bit like cool, especially you planning an event. You got the stars and everything.
Right.
Like,
Yeah,
perfect. Yeah,
like
That's cold. Yeah.
like you hide in a room for real. Like
Literally.
yeah, yeah.
Facts. Please tell us the best advice. And I think you gave a little gem earlier, but please give us tell us the best advice that you have given to a couple right before you was about to, plan their wedding or go through that process.
You know what? I would say this is probably like my go-to that I probably say to every couple is make your day about you, right? A lot of times during the planning process, like everybody wants to insert opinions, bridesmaids, groomsmen, parents, friends, all these people. For one, most of them ain't putting $1 on your day.
Right.
That's first thing. The second thing, is just like, this is your marriage, you know what I mean? And so and that's just in general, not even just the wedding, but even outside of the wedding, when it's all said and done, like you have to curate with your partner the life that you all want.
That's right.
And so I think that starts with the wedding, right? Doing the things that you want to do, making it look how you want it to look, creating your own unique traditions. Like, you don't have to go back to all the stuff that, people done, 1,000 years ago at weddings. Now, all that stuff's out the window now. You can make it whatever you want. And so I try to remind them when they're stuck or they're struggling or, they're, taking in a lot of opinions from different sources. I'm like, look, what do you want? Don't ask me my thoughts. No. I'll bump all that. Like, what is it that you all want, that you envision for your day? Keep that top of mind, and your wedding will be the wedding of your dreams. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's great advice right there. Great advice. And finally, what do you pray for the most?
Oh my gosh. It's like top 3, you know what I'm saying? I'm just like,
yeah, I mean, if you got 3, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so probably definitely health and wellness for sure, right? Because you can't do anything, you know what I mean, if you're not sound mind, body, and spirit, period. Right? So that's like number 1. Discernment is too, right?
Interesting.
Yeah. And I that just goes in my like totality of my life, right? Like you go through ups and downs, throughout your life, and as I told you earlier, in and out, poor relationships, and that's opposite sex, friendship, all of that, and just where I'm at now, like discernment is huge. And then probably, I think probably just, I think financial freedom is probably like the next thing, right? Because that's ultimately going to allow me to live the life that I've always dreamed of, but then also be able to do things for those around me, right? They even put them in better positions.
Yeah.
So,
That's amazing.
That's great. Well, people, that is our interview. We thank everybody for listening and tuning in. This was great. Great experience. We thank you, MJ, for joining us. Please go follow MJ right there at the bottom. You see
it popped up right there.
Okay. See, I got I got all kind of pages. You know what I'm saying?
Facts.
I got the core page. I got my personal page.
Yes, the events management page, your wedding and events page as well. Please, if you got anything you want to say to the people, please, the floor is yours.
Well, I mean, so they probably need the other pages, right? So you got MJ Weddings and Events.
Yes.
Our consulting by MJ. And so I guess my last little tidbit is like, thank you all for listening. For anybody who's tuned in, and has supported me, now or in the future. Be well, be blessed, and stay centered in love.
Amazing.
Greatly appreciate that.
Hey, once again, this was a truly MJ experience. I felt like game 7, playoff, game winner. This one you knocked out the park. We appreciate your presence, your purpose, your peace,
definitely.
all of the above, man. We thank you. We appreciate you. Thank you to StreamYard for allowing us to stream tonight. Please follow us all on IG, TikTok, Facebook at the HL Podcast. And of course, episode 85, we're going to come back next week with that one, but it will be amazing.
Yep, absolutely.
Thanks, guys.
Peace and love, everybody.
Peace and love.